Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Peace Police broadcast. You got Rick White here, one of the co founders of the Peace Police, and my brother and friend and co founder, Lowell Pass. Say hello, Lowell.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Peace to everybody.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Sorry we've been out the last couple of weeks. We do have a lot of stuff that we're doing, and sometimes that kind of can overwhelm us in the various things that we have going on, and we got a lot of stuff happening. You know, we're Lowell's got many things going on. So do I with bands and other stuff. So just a quick note there. There may be other times in the next few weeks or months where we skip a week or two. The good news about that is there is not only the Facebook page but also our YouTube page, and we have I think 20 or
Lots of material,
30
right?
on there right now, which is nice. So this is the Peace Police broadcast, and we started this organization almost 2 years ago now, because Lowell and I, who've known each other for such a long time, we talk all the time. We're kind of tracking, watching the news and watching the politics and watching things happen and feeling a little uneasy about the way people are at each other's throats over,
That's right.
frankly, over Donald Trump. That's what we saw. This was in the ramp up to the 2016 election. We saw that people were really getting violent about this. And then Lowell, you had a couple of dreams. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, it was back to almost 2 summers ago, and I had recurring dreams. That's when you have the same crazy dream 3 or 4 times in a row, except these didn't happen over a period of months. They were back to back, night
Right.
after night. And I saw two groups of people in cities, major cities, fighting each other physically with violence
Wow.
and destructive force. And it was a civil war. And I also saw another group, a grassroots group of people, kind of in the middle, telling both, hey, knock it off. We're
Yeah.
Americans. We need to respect one another. We need some peace, civility. We need to be able to talk to one another. What's wrong with both of you sides? And so they had peace police written on their apparel. And amazingly enough, when I called you, I said, Rick, this is bothering me, man. Somebody got to do something.
Right.
And I don't know if anything we do will ever mean anything to anybody, but it means something to us. And the motive and the intent and the cause of it is right.
That's right.
And so we started this. You came up with a logo for us, which, by the way, I love. It's an awesome peace sign there with some significance with 3 stars you'll talk about. And we looked it up, and the name was available. And so we've got this branding and this purpose and this idea, and we've come up with a new peace movement
Right.
to really get in the middle of this political violence that's going on and try to do something before it gets worse and worse. And with 8 months left before the election, and then I really believe Trump will be reelected. But regardless, I don't see this tampering down until somebody stands up and a bunch of people across the country stand up and say, hey, wait a minute, enough is enough.
Right.
So that's how we started it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, it's funny because, you called me with that idea. We worked on it for a while. We had to get a lot of things in place, some software to be able to do these kinds of broadcasts, and we've been learning. But what's funny is the need for this hasn't diminished. It's actually gotten
That's right.
greater and greater since the election. And, the way things are looking, really, no matter who wins in 2020, we're probably going to need to continue this movement but let's forget about that for a second and just think about up until 2020, these last 4 years. What we've
Right.
got is a man. He's just a man. He's not a politician, who was very successful in business. And I don't know all of his business practices. I don't want anyone necessarily looking through every action I ever did in my life. I'm not
Right.
100% confident that all of them have been great. Um, and maybe with this guy, there's a larger percentage of, quote, not great. That could be.
Could be.
But it's a man that I voted for, and that you and many of people I know voted for, because we were tired of people like Pelosi and even people on the right, like the Bush dynasty and other groups of people, just being the elite class
Right.
who are untouchable politicians who one way or another have their
These globalist world class types,
right.
right?
And one way or another, they have their fingers in things, right? You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
how the heck can Nancy Pelosi be as prominent as she is for 30 to 40 years? Our presidents can only do 8. And
John Kerry, Biden, all these
these
people
people are deep embedded and on the right too. And
on the right
so
foot.
that's why Trump got elected, because he wasn't part of them. Now,
No.
do we expect those people to be jumping up and down with glee that he's in the office? No, they're not.
No.
They're
They're
not.
what we refer to as the swamp.
Yeah, they're not. And so this is why he got elected. But what's happened is the power of that political machine of the swamp on both the right and the left, but obviously especially the left. They're just, every gun they have, they're loaded, and they just have brought them out for years since he's been in office. And we've seen what that looks like with impeachment and various other charges.
Russia. You and I are Russians, by the way.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I've been paid for, right, by
Yeah.
by Vladimir. But so that's what that looks like. And here's what I wanted to talk about is if you think that a person like Donald Trump is evil to the core, and every fiber of his being is just evil from the devil, which is really an immature way to look at anybody. But it's what we do when we're immature. We paint our enemy as they have zero redeeming qualities. They are one big pile of crap or whatever, and that's how we see them.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny about that, and I'll let you talk about this a little more, Lowell, is in order to do that with Trump, you have to ignore a lot of good things that have happened. But they will not say, I've never heard Nancy once, or Chuck, say, he's doing good on that.
No,
because he's the devil
last
to
week
them.
that had like 400 accomplishments on it.
Right.
They won't say one.
Now, I must say that if I had the foresight to know what Hitler had done, and I was in his Germany, I might do that too, right? But you can't compare these two people, and everybody does. You can't compare these two people. You just can't.
If you do, you're either a moronic person or uneducated, or you just being hateful, because all these people that even now among the stars, the elite, the athletes, the movie stars, all this stuff, they all loved him and have pictures and videos with him, and were friends with him up until the moment when he said, "I'm going to clean out the swamp."
Right.
That's
funny. And in fact, this is something we can talk about a little bit. We do this other broadcast. If you're watching us, Lowell and I have been pastors for a long, long time. Now, we haven't been in the pulpit in the last 15 years or so, but we spent a lot of time leading ministries and church groups and things like this, and we know the Bible pretty well. Not in a braggadocious way, but you can't study it for 30 years and not know something about it. So this broadcast we're on right now isn't really a religious thing, but what's interesting to talk about is it's so funny because sometimes the left says that all the Christians are behind Trump, blah, 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 but they're Christian too, and Trump's just got the evangelicals behind him and whatever. But you always hear, no matter who's the president, you always hear this even from the Christians. And this guy could be the Antichrist. You and I have dealt with this. Right? And Christians are looking for that event to occur if there happen to be premillennial Christians. They're waiting for that guy to show up.
Right.
But even when I first started hearing him, I thought, he could be that guy. But you pointed out something.
Last 5 presidents.
Yeah, you can. When I was 19 or 18, I told everyone I knew that Ronald Reagan was the Antichrist, and even in my yearbook, I wasn't even born again. I was a Catholic who was into the end times. Figure that crap out. But I read Nostradamus and Revelation. And even in my high school yearbook, there's signatures in there that say, "Hey, Rick, love you." And when you find out the last day of human race, please send it to me so I can go to confession and be ready to meet God. And by the way, Ronald Reagan is the Antichrist. I mean, so I've been doing that kind of crap my whole life. But here's the thing. You pointed out something, I don't know if you remember, and I'm putting you on the spot here. There's several reasons why this guy can't be that guy. Let's talk about a couple of those. Like why? I mean, let's just get this out in the open and say, listen.
First, I just want to say one thing, interject there.
Yeah.
You have to be able to do like we've done, and I don't pat ourselves on the back, but when we were wrong, we say we were wrong.
Hey,
we admit we were wrong, but I'm dealing with a whole group of a pack of friends and Christians who they just can't admit they're wrong.
We thought Pat Robertson was the Antichrist.
God anyway.
You remember when we thought Pat Robertson was the Antichrist?
Yeah. And Ronald Wilson Reagan.
Yeah, 666
letters. Yeah.
Guess what? We were wrong. Both times we were wrong. So
and here's why we're wrong. We're not wrong on this, and many are wrong on it. Go ahead.
Well, let's talk about it. First of all, one of the main characteristics of the Antichrist is that he unites everybody. Because this is the one, when I saw this, Lowell, it's like he's disqualified. Donald Trump is disqualified. Because the Bible paints a picture of a man who in the beginning of his power, in the beginning of his reign, really in the first 3.5 years of his reign, he brings peace, safety, unity, and the world is just this happy place because this man is a spiritual leader who brings peace and who is a magnetic figure who draws people from all sides because he's the guy. He's better than everybody else. And that's just not true.
It's the opposite of what Trump is.
Yeah. Donald Trump causes division. It's division in my own family. I have people that won't even talk to me anymore because I voted for him. But just that alone, if you think about it, those of us who've studied Scripture for years and years and years, this isn't how it would look. It doesn't look like this. It looks like someone who comes in riding on a tide of the wave of the people. The people bring him in, not a 51%, but riding on the tide of that stuff. And everyone with one voice cheers at how good he is, except for the very small minority of Christians who go, hey, you better watch it. You better watch out. Not 50% of the country, supporting him and 50% not. And even the ones who support him, like you and me, we don't think he's...
We don't worship him.
Yeah. We don't think he's a savior.
No, we don't.
We don't think... and that's another characteristic of the Antichrist, right? The ones that support him kind of pledge their allegiance to him. I don't have any allegiance. I have allegiance to the country to a certain degree, and I have allegiance to the office of the president, but I don't have any personal allegiance to Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump needs to get saved. I don't know if he is saved, but he needs to get saved, and if he's one of God's elect, he'll get saved and we'll see him in heaven. But if he's not, we won't. And so that's what I think about him, right? I just wanted to get that elephant out of the room because you and I are both Christians, So not only is he succeeding and making things better from almost every measurable thing, but he's also not Orange Man the devil. He's not the Antichrist. You know what he is?
No, he's Orange Man good.
You know what he is? He's a guy. He's a guy who has good and bad points, like John F. Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny. You think about Kennedy at the time. It's funny. I was born in '62, in October of '62, and Kennedy was killed in November of '63. He was elected in November of '62. So when I was just over 1 year old, he was killed. I was born right in that time. And he was a Democrat, right? He was the champion of the left at the time, and the country got behind this Democrat. But this Democrat had affairs. This Democrat did all kinds of unseemly things
Oh yeah.
in the White House, and it was just the good old boys club back then. Him and his brother,
And
and
by the way, the left back then was centric. It wasn't. In fact, Kennedy was the biggest anti-communist there
right,
was,
right.
so it's a different party now.
It
But back
is,
then,
but
even in spite, his policies, platform, and everything were more central. And my family was a Democrat. I was a young kid who actually saw the funeral thing on television from elementary school and the whole
yeah,
thing.
yeah. You were probably 10 or something or a little
Yeah,
younger.
and
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So it's just it's crazy that back then you're right. The left and the right weren't as far left and as far right as they are now.
That's
I
right.
do struggle sometimes to understand where we think the right has gone too far right. We always hear about you guys are right, but you're not like radical crazy right. And when I hear that, I guess I think of Tim McVeigh, right? Um,
Yeah, somebody on the fringe
the
of
fringe, yeah.
yeah,
I don't consider them conservative or right
no,
or anything. I consider them nuts.
nuts. Yeah,
And so, but the left, it's really about ideas, right? Um,
that
and
is about policy and
our main
position.
ideas are things like don't kill innocent babies,
Right.
right? And let us keep as
Don't care more for people that broke the law and came in than the veterans who fought to save you and protect you.
right, exactly. Let me keep more of my money if you can instead of less, and let me go out and work my job and leave me alone. Really, leave me alone. Government
Yeah,
should leave me alone.
right.
That's what we ask for. That's not radical.
Not
If
extreme, no.
if that's extreme far right, it's just not. You can't call it that because it's not. And there are liberals and people who are on the left who are not far left. I even know some Democrats who are pro-life instead of pro-choice, right?
Mhm.
And so
Fewer now, but yeah.
fewer,
Hmm.
but it seems like there's a coalescing of the Democratic Party around socialism and
Got to talk about it.
around this concept that we should get more from the government. I want mine. Obama's going to give me a new phone. I want a watch. We've all heard this for years. Um, this is nuts. And there's always maybe been a fringe of it, right? Lowell, there's always been but they were called communists back then, you
Yeah,
know?
and now they changed it to progressivism. But when you look at the core of it, it's taking away from those who produce to give to everybody who's whining and won't produce. Some of them, most of them can produce, but they don't want to and they won't.
Right.
So it's kind of where we're not talking about people who have genuine need, which both parties have always wanted to take care of.
That's right. And the church is supposed to take care of them too. And there's so many ways that a society can help those who are
Yes, of
in need. And we're like you just said, Lowell. We're not about giving people not being against giving people a hand up.
course
There's
not.
times when of course you do that.
There's a public
We
responsibility,
have to
right?
do that. And as Christians, we love our brothers and we care for the poor. So as Christians, we're supposed to do that personally. But redistributing wealth and no matter what happens, when someone's redistributing wealth, they're doing it based on their worldview and their philosophy,
That's
not
exactly right.
not yours, and that can be a real problem.
And who thinks, for instance, that banning straws in California is a good thing, and yet passing out needles and having injection sites and mounds, piles every night they have to clean up of drug abuse paraphernalia is an equal thing. I mean, it just your mind has got to be somewhere else to think that is a
I hate to, yeah, I agree with you. I hate to say this, but it feels like they'll say anything to get elected. It feels like, and man, God cover me because I hate to feel this way. But it feels like there are a bunch of people who are disconnected from what's really going on. They haven't done the research, and they're uneducated voters. I don't mean I don't mean they can't read. I don't mean they're uneducated in that
Right. They
sense,
just refuse to
but they've
study.
refused to check out and do the research. And so those people are easy pickings for charlatans who will do things like, hey, you want free healthcare? Hey, you want your student loans wiped away? Now, if I have no context and someone offers me that, I'm going to say
Of course
hell,
not.
especially if I'm
Right.
22 or 25 or 30. I'm going to say hell yes. Give me that. Give me my watch, take away these you know what? I pay 400 a month in student loans. I'm 58 years old and I still pay my student loans. And there's still like 30 grand left on them. I'd love for that 30 grand to go away. But guess what? I borrowed it. I own it.
Right.
I have a job now as a result of getting those student loans. I own it. I should pay my debt, right? Now, my point is, I wonder. Sometimes the greatest thing in this country is that we each get a vote, but sometimes you just wonder if there's so many people, and I know some of them. I'm close. I'm family with some of them who don't even know who the vice president of the country is.
That's exactly right.
They don't know his name. You see it on TV, when Leno used to go out and do the man on the street interviews, and when different people do that, and they ask people who's the vice president, they don't even know.
They don't know.
If you ask them who they're voting for, they go, I'm voting for Bernie because I'm going to get free stuff.
Well, and it's the same thing when you ask them, why do you hate Trump? Or I just do.
I just do. He's a X, Y, whatever. You hear these different things, and listen, has he cheated on his wife? Yes. Is he the model of Christianity? No. Is he the model of faithful husbandry? No. Is he a model of knowing how to run a business? Yes. Is he a model of
Absolutely.
innovation? Yes. Is he a model of thinking outside the box? Yes. These are the reasons
The
that.
model of pragmatism that gets things done.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So that's why we voted for him. But Lowell, we started the Peace Police. Again, it was you that germed the idea. In fact, I was just looking at our logo, and I got a letter in email yesterday saying that the very final piece of our trademark registration is complete now. And so
Wow.
this logo that you're all seeing right between Lowell and my head, I need to get a little R on there now. So I'll have to do that this week. And we'll have to get our new next batch of hats. You'll see a little R like somewhere over here. But that's cool because that means that we're a registered trademark now, completely 100% done. And what are we trying to do, Lowell? We're trying to get more people just talk like we're talking, right? Let's talk. Can you talk a little bit about what the 3 pillars are, because that's really what we're standing
Yeah,
for?
3 pillars. And if you notice in the middle, there's 3 stars in the middle of the palm of our logo. And we thought, well, could we all as Americans and just people who respect one another come together around 3 basic things that have always been American and right? And that is peace, civility, and discourse. Could we have a peace that, as the Bible says, and once again, it's in the religious program, but as much as possible, strive to be at peace with all men,
Right.
even people that oppose you. Now, we're not saying that if somebody tries to break your door down and they're coming in to violate your family, there's peace, but there should be peace when we're talking about issues, platform, policies, different party things, opinions. We should be able to talk peacefully, and the discourse part about that discourse is discussion about it, and the civility is treat each other civil, like you learned in kindergarten, the golden rule.
Right.
Treat others, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And if we can just get back to those 3 basic things that I think we can all rally for and around, we will have a more sane country and maybe head off this civil war that's coming.
That's awesome. I was trying to get, it doesn't look good right now, but I was trying to get the website up there. Let me do that real quick.
Yeah, get that on up and show.
Because that's what you're talking about is peace, civility, and discourse. Sorry, guys, for all my computer stuff, but I'll get it up here in a second. So, and that website is peacepolice.net. And if you'll see it, it should be on your screen right now.
Mm-hmm.
And moving it over a little bit. Who are the Peace Police? But if we go to our core values, you can see what Lowell just talked about,
Mm-hmm.
which is peace, civility, and discourse. And that's it. Those are like kindergarten things, Lowell.
Yep.
I mean, those are the things. Let me get.
And people today don't even know what you're talking about. They're ready to burn your car, attack you if an 80-year-old man because you got a Trump hat on. I mean, this has gotten serious, but these three things are just as serious, and they're just as easy for every person that is sane and civil to be able to do.
That's right. So in any interaction, especially when you're talking to someone who disagrees with you politically, first of all, we've got to do that. We got to talk more about this stuff. But as we've been saying for the last 20 minutes or so, we're at each other's throats and things are amped up. Well, the only way to kind of pull that back is for people to do these three things. To think, all right, I'm in this conversation, but I'm going to seek for peace. I'm not going to seek to fight with this person. Instead, I'm going to seek for peace. You know, there's a verse in the Bible that says, as far as it's possible with you, be at peace with people. That's all we're talking about.
That's right.
And this is, I'm looking at the website and I'm showing it to you right now, but it says, you know, shouting, verbal attacks, and harassment are becoming all too common. People need to learn to peacefully disagree. That's true, right?
Right.
And then civility. What happened to manners? What happened to polite disagreement? What happened to respect? Man, if you took someone from, you know, even 50 years ago, but imagine like Ben Franklin or somebody and just showed them our political discourse right now, they'd be like, oh my, what happened? What happened? We're like calling each other horrible names and orange and, you know, Cheeto Man, and it's just gotten horrible.
And the media is the worst of all.
Yeah.
They're ramping it up and triggering us purposely. And I'm telling you, if anybody can't see that, it's like...
That's right. It doesn't matter what channel you turn on television. They have one goal, and that's to make money. And the way they make money is by their commercials being shown to as many eyes as possible, which means their job is to get eyes on the television, on their channel. That's it. Mm-hmm. So they're going to bring crazy stuff so that you can see it and be all worked up. But how do you know that's real? You know, we have to ask ourselves that. How do I know what they're showing me is... I'm not there. I'm not in Saudi Arabia. How do I know? I'm not saying be so skeptical that you don't believe anything, but I'm saying be a little skeptical. You know? Yeah. And then discourse. We're not telling people to shut up about politics. We're not telling people that.
On the contrary.
On the contrary, we have to talk about it because you either think we're going in the right direction right now or you think we're going in the wrong direction. But no matter what you think, those two groups need to talk to each other and talk about it. And,
that's right.
And that's how we do this, right? I'll turn the cameras back on now. So that's what we're about. And I'm thinking, Lowell, that the need for this broadcast is not going away anytime soon.
And even if my projection is true and Trump does win re-election, even if he doesn't, but I believe he will. And if he does, you're for sure going to have 4 more years of overwhelming hatred.
Yes.
And even if he doesn't win, you may have to deal with a socialist government. And this is where we're at.
And if he doesn't win and we end up with a socialist government, I'm just telling you, you're going to have to deal with... There's not just uninformed voters on the left. There's some on the right too.
Yep.
And there's people that are more in the center, like you and me, Lowell, and we made it through the Obama years, and we never wished for anything bad to happen.
We never went ballistic.
In fact, we said that's the kind of guy I could have a beer with, and we disagree with his policies, as opposed to people who are standing up on television saying they dreamed of blowing up the White House, and actors saying, isn't it about time that an actor killed the president? And people are talking about death. We never did that. So things are different now. And that's why we're here, because they're different. It's just not the same. You know?
So join us too. Talk about that. Print out your your membership and just be a part of these three core values.
That's right. Go to peacepolice.net. As Lowell just said, you can go in there and click join the Peace Police. And when you do, all you got to do is kind of agree with what we've talked about. What does it mean to join? Are you giving us money every month? Nope. There's no fee. There's none of that. There's no recurring deal. There's no monthly subscription. You're just saying that you agree with us. And the best way to do that is to get one of these, right? These hats are pretty,
you better believe it.
Pretty
Those
cool.
Things work.
They do work. They look really good. And what happens is, no matter where you wear them, someone will ask you, "Hey, I dig your hat. What's that about?" And you just say, "Hey, it's actually an organization, a very loose organization of a bunch of people who just are feeling like we've got to get some civility and peace and discourse in our public discussions, and we need to stop screaming at each other because if we don't stop, it's going to be tough." In fact, if you heard the song in the beginning of this broadcast, it's called "Spread the Peace." It's on iTunes.
Great song. Mm-hmm.
Check it out on iTunes, and it's by Rick White. That's me, and you can get that song, and we're hoping that song will take off because it says, spread the peace, stop the hate. Let's work together before it's too late. That's why we're doing this. It could become too late here.
Very soon.
And so that's why we're doing this. Neither Lowell nor I wants to see fighting in the streets and martial law, and we don't want to see any of that stuff, and that's why we're doing this. Right, brother?
Absolutely, man.
All right.
And it's been great to get back with you this week,
Yes.
too.
Sorry we've been gone. And again, with the other stuff we got going, we may miss a week or two here and there. But don't worry, there's more stuff coming. There's greater expansion and greater ideas. Go to peacepolice.net and check it out. And then on this Facebook page that you're watching right now, check that out as well. So if that's it for you, Lowell, let's go ahead and sign off.
That's it for me, everybody.
Good talking to you guys, and we will see you next week.
Stop the hate, let's work together before it's too late. Spread the peace, stop the hate, let's work together before it's too late. Spread the peace, stop the hate, let's work together before it's too late. Spread the peace, stop the hate, let's work together before it's too late. Now brave men died to keep you free, they paid the greatest price, so you could speak your mind and live a long and happy life. But I turn on the news and see us fighting with each other. These hateful attitudes are turning brother against brother. If we don't fix this soon, there's gonna be chaos in the streets. There's no more time to lose, we gotta stand and spread the peace. Spread the peace, stop the hate, let's work